Hello and welcome to our show. Bananas are available year-round, and who doesn't love chocolate? So instead of a chocolate dipped banana, we're going to do a chocolate banana cream pie, all luscious and all nutritious. So to start off with, what we're going to do is make the crust, and the crust is 2 cups of raisins. It's actually equal parts of raisins to almonds. So we want a nice thick crust. I'm actually going to go with 3 cups of raisins and 3 cups of almonds. And the nice thing is our raisins are unsulfured, so they tend to be super moist. You can replace this with dates. I find it a little bit more expensive, but you can also just come down and buy our raisins, and then you would have the exact same recipe. And we do soak our almonds. I don't know if you can tell, but they're just soaked in plain water. They don't have to be dehydrated again for this recipe because we want it to kind of hold together. So if you just soak them for a minimum of 4 hours, you do want to drain the extra water off. So we have 3 cups of raisins, and 3 cups of almonds. All right. Now what I like to do is give it a little bit of pizzazz. So we can stop right there for a minute and buzz that up. And you'll notice that the dark starts to overpower the white. At first you just saw big chunks of almonds, and now as it gets finer, you'll see more and more dark throughout. And that's really what you're after. And when it gets fairly smooth, then we're going to give it the chocolate taste by adding cacao powder. So usually it stops on you a little bit, and you have to move it around just a bit. So if you see it now, you've got chunks of almonds there. You want to keep it going. We're going to add 1 cup of cacao powder. The raisins naturally tend to lend a bit of a chocolatey flavor, but this is a chocolate cream pie, so we need more chocolate than that. So we've got 1 cup of cacao powder in there. Okay, I think that's pretty good for me. Okay, so what we do is we use a springform pan, and then usually the lip goes up on a springform pan, we turn it down, okay? And then we cover it with saran wrap. And we want the ugly side, or the joiner side, at the bottom, and usually I do it twice. So there's once and twice. And so where the pieces join together, I put them on what I call the bottom, where the lip is going down, and this is the top. Really nice and pretty. And I tuck it in there, and I close it up. So now our cake pan is ready to go. And what we want to do is at the bottom, we want to have a very thin layer. And the reason we want to have a thin layer is we're going to stuff our cake with bananas, banana cream. And so we want to make sure that we've got enough batter to cover the banana cream entirely. But on the bottom, all we want to do is just cover the pan. So you'll notice that I have water, and what I do is I wet my hands when I scoop it so that my hands don't stick to the batter. And it also helps me so that I can push out like that. And you use the palms and you use your fingertips, typically speaking. There we go. And this is a very rich cake, so it's not a very high cake. But you can tell if there's 6 cups, like 3 cups of raisins, 3 cups of almonds, per slice, if there's 12 slices, you're getting like half a cup of raisins and almonds, which you really don't want to have more than that per serving anyway, right? Okay, so then it's looking like that, very thin layer, and that's perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the rest of the batter and put it in a bowl for us while we make the filling. We are going to start with, obviously, something to make our banana cream pie, right? So instead of doing cream from milk or whipped cream, we're going to use our coconut. Now we only need the water, essentially, of 1 coconut, but we need meat of more. So people say, well, what do I do with the rest of the water? Well, it really should be the other way around. Every morning we wake up and we drink the water. And then the question comes up, what do I do with the meat? So see, we stack our meats up in a Ziploc bag to use for our desserts, to use for our pad thai sauce and things like that. But every morning, the best way to break a fast is indeed with a coconut. And so coconut water helps to flush out your toxins. You can do the similar thing with lemon water, but I'm allergic to citrus, and coconut water just tastes so good. So these spatulas are excellent for this, and we just go ahead and scrape the meat off, and then you tuck it under, and you scrape all the way around. And then you dig in a little bit, making sure you get all the way to the center, and you pull, and it usually comes out in one nice big piece. And that way in the bag too, I can tell the meat of how many coconuts I'm using. And some coconuts have more meat and some have less. So what I did is I scraped off the woody part. This is wood. Why am I not concerned about this? This is just discoloration. It's not wood. So we don't care if it's not wood, but we do want to remove the wood because the wood will get caught underneath the S blade. And if you want, just aesthetically, you want to go ahead and you want to remove it, hey, go for it. That's your call. Okay? So in this cake, what I like to do is enhance the nutritional value. So I like to have a nice thick filling. I like the filling to be almost as thick as the bottom and top layer. Now, if you don't like that, then the secret to the chocolate recipe is equal parts of almonds and raisins. So if you want a higher batter, instead of using 3 cups of almonds and 3 cups of raisins, you could use 4 cups of raisins and 4 cups of almonds, or 5 cups of raisins and 5 cups of almonds. Really, whatever you prefer. That's not a problem. We are going to use here the meat of 3 coconuts to start. So I'm going to show you just how to buzz it up quickly into a cream. So we're going to do that by itself to show you the consistency. And you'll notice that the big pieces of coconut start to become smaller and smaller. Now what I do when I work here or at the restaurant is I'll walk away from it. I'll just do something else for a couple of minutes. You don't have to stand here and watch it, but you want to let it try to get pretty smooth, like a cream. You don't want it to be water with chunks of coconut. And it will do that in a food processor. If you have a Vitamix, it'll do it quicker. But in a food processor, it will do it. Okay, so now you'll notice that the thickness of our cream is getting quite cream-like, right? It's not super thin. Excellent place to use your really ripe bananas. Some things that people don't know about ripe bananas. Some people say bananas hurt my stomach. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It's because they're eating them when they aren't ripe. So what we do here at the cafe is we order our bananas and we wait for them to get this ripe before we freeze them for our smoothies. Because we never want somebody to have a stomach upset when they've eaten a smoothie. And also then, it's naturally sweet. The sweetness of the banana increases the riper that it is. So you'll notice that the skin on the outside is brown, but inside, that's a beautiful banana. It's just ripe, it's perfect. And we're also gonna go with the same thing. 3 bananas for 3 coconut meats. And some people say at home, I can't make my smoothies like you guys do. Well, do you have the patience to make sure that every ingredient along the way is just so? Because the banana cream pie doesn't taste as creamy. The banana actually doesn't cream up as well if it's really firm, and you know, this way it's nice and soft and it becomes nice and creamy. What I like to do is add vanilla. So where I want to add my vanilla is where I'm going to be able to taste it. So I've taken 3 vanilla beans in here and I've ground them up. So I equate 1 teaspoon typically to 1 vanilla bean. So I use a half a vanilla bean and I grind it up in the coffee grinder. So we call it vanilla powder. It's not vanilla extract. If you want to use vanilla extract, you can. It just has alcohol in it, so we don't. We just use, you know. And alcohol does the same thing as a pasteurization. It destroys the nutrition. If you're wondering why, it's not that we hate alcohol, it's just, that's what it does. You've got that, and then we have honey. So we're gonna start off with a half a cup of honey. And this is raw local honey. If you're diabetic, it is going to change the color of this, but you could use coconut palm sugar or Rapadura instead, and it will make it brown, but it won't spike your blood sugar. What we try to do is try to mix up our sugars a little bit so you're getting a diversity. So the honey is good because it'll boost your immune system and it'll give you different nutritional value than the sweetness from the raisins. And then we'll use sugar and other things because that'll do different things. So raisins are chock full of vitamin C. There's fiber, so many good things in there. So now we've got two different kinds of sweetness going on in our dessert. And that's really good for you, nutritionally speaking. So the filling's a little runny. When we put it in the cake, that's why we do it in a springform pan, and then we put the layer on it, we're gonna put it in the freezer until this sets. And then you would have a very nice filling. And I say this all the time, my mom is a chef. If you do not have the sweetness and the salt right in a recipe, you won't taste the other flavors. So if something is too spicy, could it be that your salt isn't right? Because if you adjust the salt, then the flavors will mellow out. And so if you don't have enough honey in it, you won't taste the banana. Once the sugar and the salt is right in a recipe, then you will be able to taste everything else in the recipe. So very critical. You never want to under salt and you never want to under sweetness. And you don't want to over salt, of course.
Which happens all the time in restaurants.
All the time. So you notice that we doubled up. So we used extra. So we're going to leave about half in the thing because, we can make another cake with that, but we added extra. So this is a beautiful 3-layer cake. So I just bang it down a little bit. Now you don't want to bang it so hard that it falls apart, but just levels it out perfectly. And then we have the rest of our crust. And what I do with this is I tend to just kind of cover it over in small pieces, thin layer if I can, because you can't really touch the banana part too much, right? And that's where you need this, because a little sticky, right? And if you wet the palms of your hands, thing we did in India all the time, it's amazing what a big difference it makes. In America, everybody uses oil, but if you just wet the palms, see, like that, that becomes your oil. Works out perfectly. There we go. Now I don't think my daughters do it quite the same way, but this is the way I do it. I like to have a thin layer, like to press it between my hands, do it like that. And it's kind of like art. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I feel like I'm creating something. And then we fill in the gaps. You get to play with your food. See, and it will start sticking. So just wet it again a little bit. So we have enough just to cover it up here. I'll show you in a second. So it's totally covered. And you want to cover it so that it doesn't turn brown. And that's the key to that.